Yo, it's KJ Miller and I'm back with another video today. In this video, we're going to be giving you a guide on how to improve your sports photography. More specifically, we're talking about giving you a guide to get better and more epic action sport photos. And the tips in this video, rather than telling you and explaining how to take a type of photo, for example, one snowboard photo the best way or one biking photo the best way, these tips are going to equip you with the knowledge and a checklist to go through in any kind of sports photography environment. I'm going to give you 5 main points that I wish someone had been there to give me when I started sports photography. And be sure to stick around for the last one because it will change the way that you view taking sports photos forever. Let's start right at the beginning with gear. It's important to know the gear that you'll need, how to use it, the preferred settings. Of course, familiarity with all of this will come with time, but because it's action sports, you can assume that you're going to have a fast moving target, which means that you'll need a fast shutter speed in order to freeze the action in that frame. And of course, you can experiment with slower shutter speeds for the creative blurred look. I myself am quite a fan of that as of late. Really enjoy it, how it shakes up the portfolio from all the still static frozen shots. And I feel like they're a cool addition to your portfolio from that shoot because the blurred ones tend to convey a bit more energy because of the movement and the blur. And as well as knowing the settings for your camera, ideally it's best before you go out on a shoot to know exactly what equipment you'll need. Otherwise you're going to end up taking all your gear plus the kitchen sink, which I have done before, and it's an absolute slog when you got to climb back up the hill or move around or just carry it around your back all day. In the examples we're going to talk about, I will be focusing primarily on snowboard photography and mountain bike photography because those are the two action sports that I photograph the most. But since these tips are meant to be a guideline for sports photography in general, you can feel free to take this checklist with you to any kind of sports photography that you do. In terms of the gear that I take with me on a snowboard or a biking shoot, generally I take 2 camera bodies. One will have a wide angle like a 16-35 or a 24-70 on it, and the other one will have a 70-200 on it most of the time. I choose this setup because it gives me the most range and I can get close and far shots, usually within the one run. Now that's important because it saves a lot of time instead of taking more laps to get the close ones if we focus on doing the long ones on the first lap. Also, a very important side note, if you are doing extreme sports photography or motorsports where there are lots of chunks of snow or rocks or dirt flying around everywhere, my key piece of advice would be to get a UV filter and put it on all of the lenses that you're using that day. It's not to block out the sun, it's not for any effect, it is literally to protect your lens. So in worst case scenario, something does hit the front of your camera, it's going to take out the filter instead of taking out your lens. And let me tell you, it's a huge relief when it's the UV filter that's been smashed to pieces instead of the front element of your $3,000-$4,000 lens. My next tip for you, and probably the most useful in terms of setting you up for success on the day, is to know the sport that you're photographing. Now that doesn't mean to say you have to have actually done the sport. You can watch it, you can tag along with friends while they're partaking in the sport. As long as you've got a rough idea of what's happening and the kind of shots that you want, that'll set you up for success. I mean, you could just burst the whole session, but then you're going to have thousands of photos to edit to get maybe 5 or 6 of those really sweet money shots. So talking about those money shots, or the key moments in sports, one that I think we can all relate to is in a football match or a soccer match. We all know that it's 90 minutes long and not all 90 minutes are interesting. Some of the key moments in a football match might be a particularly bad tackle, a strike on goal, a really good save, a celebration after a goal. Lots of opportunity for banger shots, but it is not the whole match. So since we're focusing on outdoor extreme activities, knowing the sport is a little different than a football match, but it is the same idea. We're looking for those key moments. If you're photographing something similar to mountain biking or snowboarding, something that they share is that they both have jumps involved. And so you might be looking at jumps and trying to see where the rider's at the highest point, the apex of the jump, or the most styled out if they're doing a trick, which usually happens at the apex of a jump. And so knowing when that's coming and knowing what to look for, it's almost like you're having an educated guess as to where the athlete's going to be on that jump and preparing yourself to rattle off a few frames when they get to that point in the air. Another similarity between the two sports of biking and snowboarding is a turn. It could be a turn on a berm with a bike, or it could be a powder turn in the snow on a snowboard. They're both similar in the way that you'd probably want to be in the middle of that turn and have the rider going around you and rattling off a few frames when they get into that sweet spot in the middle. Alright, on to the next one, and when we're talking about photography, we cannot ignore lighting. Now, outdoor action sports can be shot in any type of lighting, but with most things you might find that the better shots you get and the more aesthetic shots you get are when the sun is low. So that's either early on in the day or later on in the day. If you can plan a photo session for either just around sunrise or just around sunset, you're probably going to be dealing with the best light. But if you don't have control over the light, then you can make it work to your advantage. So let's say you're in the middle of the day, the sun is high, it's a really glaring light that all photographers love to avoid. What are you going to do? Well, you can take your athletes to areas that block out the sun or create a barrier to the sun. And the good thing about mountain biking and snowboarding is that tree runs are the most fun in both of those sports. So you have great opportunities to work with shadows and highlights and get your riders coming through in a bright spot in amongst the trees. Alternatively, you could use that bright glaring light to your advantage and use it to backlight your athlete or create shadows and silhouette shots. Another way to get around a less than ideal lighting situation is to use a longer focal length. Cropping in gets rid of most of that landscape that's affected by the light, and it creates a nice compression where your athlete would fill up most of the frame, and so you're not really aware of any poor lighting or extreme bright scenario outside of the frame because you're nice and tight. The next thing you want to think about in terms of getting epic action sports shots is to be experimental with your angles. We've all got our favorite angles that we love to shoot time and time again, myself included. I've got my hero shots, the ones that I go to that will result in great photos no matter what. But if we're looking to create some variety and let our portfolio stand out from the rest of our work, then taking a chance with our angles is probably the best and quickest way to do that. So if you normally shoot with a 70-200, try getting up close with a 16-35 or a 12-24. If you normally take photos of the athlete coming towards you, take shots of them from the side or from the back. Include some landscape in the photo to tell the story of where the athlete's going. And of course, if on the ground has been exhausted, you can't think of any more angles, then throw the drone up. The drone is an incredibly useful tool in getting action shots on snowboards, on bikes, whatever it is you're doing. The aerial view adds another dimension to it and I think looks quite fantastic in the right conditions. And we're almost there at that last tip that is going to change how you view action sports photo shoots forever. But first, I want to say if you're new here that my name is KJ Miller and I am a photographer and filmmaker from BC, Canada. I've worked with all of these brands here, mostly in the outdoor space. I'm creating videos to help as many people as possible get better at photography, filmmaking and running a business doing so. So I would appreciate if this video has been helpful if you would hit the subscribe button with notifications on. And let's get to that last tip. Finally, we saved the best for last. And that last tip is don't just shoot the action. It seems like a simple enough idea, but we've all been there and caught up in the action and we're rattling off frames and we're so thrilled about what we're getting and we're like, yeah, let's go, one more, that we forget that we could be telling a story here. We could be taking portraits of the athletes, we could be taking prep shots of the athletes, we could include the landscape to tell the story of where we are, an establishing shot if you like. But the general idea is to include some headshots, some lifestyle photos within your portfolio of action shots just to tell a more complete story of what happened that day. And a useful little tidbit is that most of the athletes that have asked for headshots and lifestyle shots have been surprised that I've done that, because more often than not when they're asked to perform, it's the action shots that are the focus. And besides, who's not stoked to get another headshot or profile picture while they're out there sending it? So hopefully you can take that last tip along with the other ones, combine them, make a little checklist to take out with you on your photo shoots and improve your action photo shoot game, or at least view it in a different light than you're used to. If you found this video helpful, I would sure appreciate you hitting the like button and subscribing if you want to see more of this content. And if you want to learn more about the lenses that I use on a regular basis to take snowboard photos, you should check out this video here. See you next time.